Hey, welcome to Film versus Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema you hate. I'm your co-host, Belton DeLaine-Facey.
And my name is Chris Shurr.
And on this podcast, we discuss the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and hit with a dirty diaper of public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And the other one tells you why it's a steaming pile of shit.
And this is still Black History Month. And as we previously mentioned on the podcast, we believe everyone deserves the same opportunities to make bad movies as white men. So today we are recognizing some Black filmmakers and discussing the film Lil Man, brought to you by the Wayans Brothers.
It wasn't that bad. I'm not going to lie. Like I expected it to be truly awful, and it was a solid comedy. Like it wasn't great, but
because I would think with this one, they're coming off of White Chicks, which was also panned critically, but has become a cult classic. And this, I feel like, was kind of close to getting in that lane.
Yeah. You ever hear Marlon Wayans quote where he's like, I'm not a big fan of cancel culture. He's like, I think some movies need to happen. He's like, I think it was important that White Chicks was made. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like there's other movies out there than White Chicks to do that.
Yeah. I mean, White Chicks, it's funny you said that about White Chicks, because whenever there's like some color bending casting, like all the people against it are always just like, oh, but White Chicks is cool. It's like, okay, you need more than one example to make your point.
White Chicks was a good movie. I don't know if they really thought about the fact that it would be quoted on the other side. They're just like, oh shit, did we accidentally make a pro blackface movie if you look at it stupidly?
Yeah, that's the thing. I also feel like a lot of people who are pro black also don't like White Chicks, but for different reasons. All right, so Lil Man came out in 2006. Basically, the basic premise is Marlon Wayans plays a hardened criminal with dwarfism, and he pretends to be a baby to get into his family's house and steal a diamond back from them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. It's a lot of shenanigans. There's all types of shenanigans going on, and then the couple that are you going to do a line by line?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I mean, I feel like there isn't like a whole lot more plot wise, but the movie starts off with him getting out of jail. He's picked up by his, let's say, accomplice Percy, who's played by Tracy Morgan. Immediately, Percy's just like, I have a new job for us. And it's to steal this big diamond from a store. So they do that. And then meanwhile, Daryl and Vanessa, who are a couple played by Shawn Wayans and Kerry Washington, they have a discussion that she just got a promotion. He really wants a baby, and it's not happening right now. So Calvin and Percy steal the diamond. During the police chase, he puts it into Vanessa's purse to not get caught with it. And then they get the idea of disguise him as a baby, leave him on a doorstep, and they just keep him over the weekend because CPS is closed until Monday. And then after that, it's a lot of shenanigans. Really, their friends come over. It's like only Vanessa's dad, played by John Witherspoon, is the only one really suspicious of like, this doesn't look like a normal baby.
The parents are just kind of like, yeah, they think the same thing, but they're also not going to say anything about it. Where they're like, oh, what a cute little guy.
Yeah, it's like how everyone's just afraid to call baby ugly, and they're like, we don't want to be that guy, like, because like the idea of like this baby being a man is utterly ridiculous, but also Marlon Wayans the entire time like as a baby is just like goo goo gaga.
Wham!
Yeah, so very shenanigans, but Mr. Walken, who's like the big crime guy that sent him on the assignment. He's really pressing Percy. He's like, we need to get that diamond back. And so Percy just walks up to the house and is like, I'm Calvin's father. I'm here to take him back. And Daryl just goes, well, you're a shitty father, and goes off on him and was like, why does this baby have a tattoo and a stab wound? And off of that, Mr. Walken thinks Daryl is Calvin, and they're working together. So soon after, Pops gets confirmation Calvin's not a baby, but of course, saying this baby is a grown man makes you sound crazy. So they sent him to a retirement home very quick.
Yeah, the scene is the grandpa's literally like has his boot on the baby's throat. And they're like, oh, retirement home for this guy, not like call the fucking police. Like, I know it's a comedy, but he really bodied that baby.
It's like, also, if that's a grown man, that's not even in your weight class. Like, that's something where it's like, you have to be in serious danger to justify that fight.
Oh, yeah.
And so soon after, Daryl sees nanny cam footage and realizes, oh, Pops was right as Walken's guys break into the house, and then him and Calvin just fight them off, and they become friends afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think they had an ending plan for this movie. I think they had a premise and they started shooting, and they're like, how do you want to end it? And they're like, I don't know. What if they're friends at the end? And they're like, that seems like... That's fine.
Yeah, because it's like over the course of the movie, you're supposed to believe, okay, Calvin grew to like care for them as like parents because he didn't really have a father. But it's like also, this is someone who broke into your house and just lied to you for an entire weekend. I feel like you can't just have that much trust afterwards.
Yeah. No, that'd be like, you'd have to call the police just because that's creepy. Like, he knows how to get into the house again. Like, he already went really far to commit a crime. Like, who knows what he's going to do?
Yeah, it's like, and he's on parole, probably. This is the weekend he got out of jail.
I don't know. He might have just served full time. He seems like a full-time kind of guy.
I don't know. I feel he probably did serve the full time because he didn't seem like someone who would get off easy on good behavior.
Yeah. Well, and he was beaten. That opening scene, his cellmates like terrified of him.
Oh yeah, like he is a prison legend.
Yeah, like he's fucking up adults. I don't know. I feel he could have just like grabbed the diamond and fucked him up real easy. Like, it wouldn't have been that hard to just beat the crap out of Shawn Wayans and get that diamond and just head on out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it couldn't have been that hard to just escape from the house. It's not high security or anything. They didn't even have an ADT sign outside.
And you're like, oh, okay, but then he would have had to use violence. And at the same time, he already like smashed the dad's head in with a friggin' cast iron pan. So it's just like, he's already a violent person. Like, just use the violence. And then those people would have had to go to the cops and been like, this baby we adopted off the street turned out to be a grown man that attacked us. And they'd be like, honestly, that seems like a you issue.
Yeah. So this film was produced by Keenan Ivory, Marlon, and Shawn Wayans. As previously mentioned, they worked on White Chicks. And the Wayans Brothers, they got their real big start on In Living Color, and they had a sitcom in the 90s. And so this film was actually based on a 1954 Bugs Bunny cartoon called Baby Buggy Bunny, where Bugs takes care of a baby unaware the baby is a bank robber.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is like, I'm sure like in Looney Tunes reruns, we probably saw it as a kid and just like don't remember it. So it's like, it's insane to think that the Wayans Brothers watched that and were like, you know what? This would be a banger.
I thought it was going to be like a satire of that. Remember the orphan movie about the little girl who gets adopted, and it turns out she's like a 25-year-old man or a 25-year-old woman, and then she like kills half the family.
I want to guess that's just Orphan, but
Orphan. I think it's called Orphan.
For some reason, I think that came out after this. I don't remember when it came out. Wrong. Yeah, it came out in 2009.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, honestly, like considering they also like did the scary movies, at least the earlier ones, like that would have been in their wheelhouse. Like if they had waited 3 years, they could have really made something with this. But so the entirety of this film was shot in Vancouver, and the way they did Marlon Wayans, who is like 6'2", as someone with dwarfism, is they had an actor with dwarfism on set, Lyndon Porco, who was 9 years old at the time. And so when they shot the scenes on set, he was filming with all the other actors. They worked with him, so he would kind of like have Marlon Wayans' mannerisms down, and so then Marlon would shoot on green screen wearing a full green screen suit, and they would superimpose Marlon's head on this kid's body.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. The only thing is, because this was 2006, it just looks so weird now.
Yeah, it looks pretty off, which I think does a lot for the comedy. Like, I almost think it was successful. Yeah,
like it makes me think like you remember on the George Lopez show, whenever they flash back to him as a kid, it was just like his adult head on a kid's body, and they made his head too big for the body intentionally for comedic effect. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. When you get that first like view of him, it immediately gets a laugh.
Yeah, cause like honestly, it's not even in Uncanny Valley. It's way before Uncanny Valley. It just does not look realistic by today's standards.
Yeah,
which is also crazy. Like considering like that whole process of CGI just punched up the budget so much.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Their budget was $64 million.
Holy shit!
Yeah, without the CGI, this probably could have been done for like half the budget.
With what? Just like practical effects?
Yeah, if they had just hired someone with dwarfism to play it instead of Marlon Wayans, they probably could have saved a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then, like, it was a Wayans brother movie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, who took the chance on a 64 mil? Like, who took this movie and was like, yeah, give them whatever they want?
I mean, at this point, the Wayans brothers were very successful. So and like they made box office hits. So it's more like they were giving money to the Wayans brothers who had a proven track record at this point, as opposed to just a random person that came up with this concept.
That's fair.
Yeah. Also, just one thing I found interesting: Lyndon Porco is white. So they, for like all the scenes, they had to like darken his hands and like various parts of his body to match Marlon Wayans' skin tone.
They couldn't have just found like a black kid?
Apparently not. Like honestly, like they're so this guy who's an adult now is just lucky they didn't have to darken his face. He pretty much got everything but blackface. Like he got a check, and there are no pictures of him just walking around in blackface as if it's a normal Halloween costume.
It'd be weird if he got hit with like cancel culture in a couple of years. They're like, we need to go after the kid from Little Man. He did it on purpose. We know he's a sick guy. Like,
yeah, it's just crazy. Like the thought process. They were like, because like I'm also sure they auditioned people for this. So it's like they saw a white kid audition, and we were like, we can work with this. We can just darken it a bit, as opposed to like, what about that black kid over there?
I get my bet is he got the role either through nepotism or he was legitimately the best at getting Marlon's hand movements down.
Yeah, I could. I can see that because like mimicking another actor is tough, especially at that young age. Is like I'm also imagining like any of the Wayans brothers just in an interview being asked about that, and we were like, "It was 2006 in Vancouver. Where are we gonna find a black kid in Vancouver in 2006?"
Was this before or after White Chicks?
After.
I'm just imagining they're like, yeah, we went with the white kid because we wanted to hire our makeup guys from White Chicks again.
Yeah, it's like they were like, hey, you know how you enjoy working on White Chicks? Let's do the reverse. All right, well, this film came out in July 13th, 2006. As mentioned before, it has $64 million budget. It made $104 million at the box office. So like, definitely not a runaway hit. If you don't know, films to be considered successful usually have to make at least 2.5 their budget at the box office. So like this might have gotten there with DVD sales, but those aren't reported. It was nominated for 7 Razzies that year. Which for that year was tied for the most with Basic Instinct 2. And it won 3 of them. Marlon and Shawn Wayans won for worst actor. Worst screen couple went to Shawn with either Marlon or Kerry Washington. And it won for worst remake or ripoff because it was based off a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
I'm genuinely surprised that like that was a factor in winning that award. Like, I feel like it's so far removed from a Bugs Bunny cartoon that it's not like a remake of a literal movie.
It's not, but the Razzies are just so unserious that they're like, we will throw this at anything. Like, I'm pretty sure when Adam Sandler did Jack and Jill, he got nominated for worst on-screen couple for just acting with himself.
Wait, no, he was brother-sister in that movie.
I think they describe couple as just like any pair. Any pair will do.
I don't know. I thought he had great chemistry with himself.
Yeah, it's almost like he's really familiar with the other actor. Well, yeah, Kerry Washington was in this. It's like she is such a better actress than this. I'm glad she got Scandal after this.
This is probably a good gig for her. Was she a big actress at that point?
No, she had acted in some smaller stuff. I feel like she's one of those actors where before their big breakout, you just watch movies from the time you're like, oh, she's in this. Because I remember I recently watched the Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad and Angelina, and she was in there. I was just like, oh, I forgot she was in this movie.
How'd that movie hold up? A little off topic.
I feel it's decent, but like fully predicated on the fact they cast 2 of the most fuckable people on the planet at the time.
That's super fair. I remember as a kid being like, this is badass, and then my dad getting home and being like, that movie was awful. And I'm like, no, it had guns in it, rocked. Like,
all right, well, now is time for our opening statements. I am defending this film and Chris is attacking.
Yes. Do you want me to start or should you?
Yeah, sure. Go.
Whether this movie is good is fully dependent on the fact that its audience will find Marlon Wayans' face on a baby's body funny. It's admittedly funny, but not enough for a full movie. It's an SNL sketch that just never stops. It feels like it should be a satire, but its target is Wayans Brothers movies as a whole. It's not a great movie.
All right, my opening statement. Wow, the Wayans Brothers did it again. On the surface, Little Man is a ridiculous, absurd concept, but that concept is used to satirize common media portrayals of gender roles. It may not be as relevant to us, but 2006 was a different time. And then through it all, the film showcases the humor that made the Wayans Brothers household names.
I'd like to. It is a product of its time, but like kind of like lead paint, where we shouldn't be like, well, it was pretty good at making walls colors. It's like, yeah, it was also poisonous. I mean, at one point he did just like force Carrie. Yeah, that's her name, Carrie Washington.
Yeah,
force her head into his crotch. There's like a lot of shit he pulled in that movie where I'm like, I know it's early 2000s humor, but like, god damn.
Yeah. I think that all that stuff was best described. Friend of the pod, Samantha, her processor in her Letterboxd review stated there's like 80 sexual moments, none of them are consensual. But I mean that is like look, yes, like all that was played for laughs, but I think a lot of it was like part of the criticism of this movie is that the concept is ridiculous, but a lot of the film spends time making fun of like all the adults in the room for believing this concept. I feel like it's similar to say Family Guy, where it's like you are laughing at like all the characters because they're doing so much dumb shit, and I feel. And the fact it starts with Shawn Wayne's character really being like, I'm ready to be a father. I'm ready to be a father. It's like, yeah, the joke's on him because this whole movie is showing he's not ready to be a father, but because he's a man, and in like all the conventions we generally see on TV, dads are incompetent. We're like, that's good enough, generally.
So you're arguing that Little Man is poignant social commentary?
In some ways, yes.
One of my biggest criticisms of the movie is I kind of just found that it's almost just like a bunch of skits put together, and the plot just kind of gets away from itself, where it's like, okay, he's a baby stuck there. And like that whole aspect of it kind of runs for about 20 minutes of the movie spread out. And then it is in the middle of that is just like goofy physical cornball comedy. So like he tries to steal the diamond. He doesn't get it. Now he's playing baseball in the park. Now he's playing cards with the kids and teaching them how to bet and play poker and roll dice. Like there's just a lot of stuff where they're just like, oh, this would be funny, which is fine for a comedy, but like it doesn't really flow that well as a story.
I mean, the thing is, I do feel like the movie, it could be like a series of sketches. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, because like the plot is like just enough to push things forward, because I mean, like among all those gags, I don't feel like as a character Calvin ever lost motivation, and because also like you can't spend like all the time talking about the diamond he's supposed to steal, because it's a MacGuffin, and general rule when writing MacGuffins is the more you talk about them, the less the audience cares.
Yeah, that's fair. But also they I don't know, the football scene kind of got to me, where they're at the birthday party and you just got the scene where Calvin beats the shit out of Rob Schneider in a dinosaur costume, which great physical comedy when he's like, Rob Schneider keeps ducking into the dinosaur costume and he keeps punching him out of it. So he like flies up and he's bleeding out of his, I'll admit, great physical comedy. But then they're like, oh, and we'll do a football game too. And it's like, I feel like you already got the dinosaur punching scene. We don't really need the over the top football scene.
Well, the football scene was like a father-son bonding moment. That's what it's supposed to be, because like they really portrayed his friend as like one of those overly competitive dads, where it's like, my kid needs to go D1. So it's like, it just seemed like one of those guys where they hung out more out of obligation than actual friendship. so it's like their time to like come together, and like they took out this person, neither one of them like together.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair. But I don't know. I kind of, when it hit that point in the movie, I was hitting that where I'm just like, all right, just get rid of this. Like, let's just get this movie over with.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be 75 minutes, not 90 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, also, like you already expected. I mean, the film expected you to suspend your disbelief pretty much by that point. Because also, keep in mind, the entire movie takes place over a weekend. They planned a full birthday party very quick.
Yeah, it's fair. Okay, I've got a question. How strong is Calvin? Because it's like all over the place how strong he is.
Like yeah, I feel like they just play around with that. I feel like they wanted the joke to be like, oh, he's a hard criminal who's also super strong, but like also it felt like it did feel like some superhero cartoons where it's just like this character is super strong whenever the plot needs him.
Yeah, well, that's what they did. Which is like fair. I just kind of wish they had been a little more consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you sometimes you can go for logic or you could go for cool and funny, and cool and funny will win all the time.
Yeah,
I want to say like in the opening scene we saw him like benching a bar and some plates. Maybe I'm imagining that, and
I thought he was doing pull-ups.
Oh yeah, he was doing pull-ups. So yeah, he's definitely strong for his size, and it's like it's probably exaggerated for comedic effect, because I mean, like if you're expecting someone to be as strong as a baby and they have just grown man strength, that will feel like super strength.
Yeah, but he's like full on. He'll grab someone by the arm and just kind of flip him over his body. Like he's really, I know it's comedy, but like I'm just sitting here and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's also just called technique. like I mean, you see like those martial artists who are like 5 feet 110 soaking wet, and they just take down dudes after twice their size because like they just know how to do it.
I feel like there's a limit to that. Like he literally just grabs someone by the, I don't know. I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. But like, if it's for, I guess it's for comedy, it's for comedy, but it really kind of took me out of it a little bit. I wanted a consistent, grounded in reality movie. That's what I thought I was walking into.
Consistent, grounded in reality about like someone pretending to be a baby.
Yep. I want some hard sci-fi worth of this movie.
I'm sure there is just like some different version where it's just like, all right, to get in your like some sci-fi fantasy, you're gonna take this potion and it'll make you look like a baby. It will wear off in 36 hours. Which like that also would have been like a cool ticking clock to have throughout the plot.
Yeah. They really, I don't know, the whole like, oh, child services just isn't open on the weekend. It can't, like, at least it gives it like a timeline, but that I feel like they could have just been like, let's try it out for a weekend.
I mean, I feel like that would make them look insane. Like
they already looked insane.
Okay, but like the way they look insane in the movie, it's insane, but like genuinely caring about this child, and like I feel like a normal person to be like, oh, we just found this baby on our doorstep, let's keep it as if it's just a stray cat. That's pretty crazy. And because also remember, like a main point of Daryl is that like he genuinely thinks he's ready to be a father, and I feel so you can't just show him being recklessly irresponsible like that.
But he already is recklessly irresponsible like that. He didn't even want to call it. I don't think he wanted to call child services. That was all Kerry Washington. He was just like, let's just keep the baby. He's like, how sick is this? It's baby time. He's like, remember that time we got that DoorDash order that we weren't expecting and we just kept it? He's like, here we are today doing the same thing.
All right, bold of you to just slander Black fatherhood during Black History Month.
I was waiting for you to say that. I was like, oh no, what if Belton is just like, if you don't like this movie, you're racist. And I just had to be like, come on.
You're just like, I enjoyed the light racism. Yeah, but I do. Okay, but I do think with Daryl, because I do feel like the film. Because remember, this is really coming off like the sitcom trope of the super involved mother and the idiotic dad who doesn't really know what's going on. Like in say The Simpsons and Married with Children. So I feel like him, he just needs to meet like this bare minimum of involved fatherhood, and this is also showing why, like, hey, that bare minimum isn't always good, because remember, he is married to a very career woman, and not taking into account like, oh, how raising a child would affect her in that aspect.
You know, I think he was ready to be a dad. I don't agree with your whole, I think it's trying to show that the bare minimum. Pretty much, he was ready to be a dad if it weren't for the fact that he was getting sabotaged by an adult man every single step of the way. He had a crib, he had diapers, and he had everything you need to raise a child. He had toys. Well, no, he would take him to the park.
Well, no, he didn't have all that stuff. They had like the quick baby shower. I would say like at the beginning of the movie, he might not have been fully ready, but he grew into it because there's a character arc and development. And so he learned like, oh, it takes more to be a father than just doing these things.
I don't know. I think he had it. I think he was ready the entire time. I think it was just him getting sabotaged a little bit. I see it more as like he is a representation of great fatherhood in the sense that he's excited about it. He wants to have a kid because I feel like a lot of people don't end up having kids who don't want to have kids. So there you started out and he's already like a higher up. He's above the bar in a sense about being a father. Then he's actively participating. He takes responsibility. And the only time he actually looks like a bad father is when he's getting attacked by like a full grown man. I think the fact that they can't tell it's an adult is less like showing that they're not ready to be parents and more just the comedy of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like there are parts like when they go to the hockey game, he literally just does not watch this kid at all. Like to go to a professional sporting event with, I assume they think he's 1 year old. At 1 year old, I feel like you are still in your parents' lap at a hockey game. You don't get your own seat, which they somehow bought last minute.
I can't answer that, Bellin. I don't know that if that's the case. I know my brother has a newborn that's like 4 months old and they're planning on flying and they're going to get an extra seat just because it's nice to have space. But I feel like also if he doesn't know it's an adult, he's kind of under the assumption he's like, yeah, baby can't drink a whole beer in 15 seconds.
Okay, but baby can still drink beer, which is bad. Like, it doesn't take like I feel like it doesn't take long for a baby to just like grab the drink next to them and take a sip. Granted, a baby would probably spill a lot more than Calvin did.
Okay, but also to go back to my point about the fact that he's a decent father, I feel like that's just one of those new father kind of things you have to learn, in the sense that like I think he's a good and ready father. I think every single, even the best father in the world, makes mistakes and has to learn and gain experience to improve, like actually watching the child and keeping him safe. But I don't think that puts into doubt his ability to be a father.
True. Yes. Yes. Like any parent just makes mistakes. I do. I still feel like he, at least on an emotional level, he grew a better understanding of what fatherhood is. Because like, especially like towards the end when he has the opportunity to just rat out Calvin, I think he grows like a more understanding and compassion that he might not necessarily have had.
Okay, that's fair. He did have, both him and Calvin did have like some nice growth.
Yeah.
But also the ending of the movie, the implication is a little weird because then Kerry Washington's like, fuck my career, I'm ready for a kid, let's do this thing. Like, I feel like this could also be a Jordan B. Peterson produced movie promoting trad wives and child rearing and traditional gender roles.
Well, if you notice at the end of the movie during the scene where they show the new baby, Kerry Washington is not there. You know why? She's at her job. He stepped up to be, I assume, the stay-at-home dad.
Was that in like the credits? I thought the movie ended with them going to a strip club together.
Him and the baby?
Yeah, remember like the cops come, they beat up the bad guys. Then Shawn Wayans doesn't sell out Calvin. And then he's like, he's like, it was nice to have you as a dad, essentially. And he starts crying and they're like, maybe we could be friends. And they're like, how about a strip club? And they like walk off into the sunset.
Oh, I thought that. Him and I thought him and Calvin and Daryl said that right after the cops left, but before the new baby was there.
Shit, I must have not been paying attention by that new baby. That's my bad. All right, then yeah, she's at work. But I thought she quit her job, essentially. She could also just be in the bathroom.
True. She could be anywhere. Because women can do anything.
Okay, look, it's not Women's History Month, Belly.
I'm just getting ahead of the curve for when Women's History Month. You're just like, how can you say that?
Yeah, I've got two on you because I also get to do Pride Month as well.
All right. Well, all right. Well, I do. So yeah, but just quickly back to the structure. I do think like the structure for what they're going for, the idea of like, oh, let's come up with a concept and just make as many bits of it as possible works for this, because it is kind of how a lot of their movies are. If you see like, especially with the scary movies, it's like those are really like, how can we fit as many jokes into this as possible? So that's something that just clearly works for them and their audience.
Yeah, I agree. That definitely is their style. I'd argue that Scary Movie is a spoof movie. So that style of making movies definitely makes more sense in that context. I'm kind of think that, I don't know if they should apply that style to every single movie that they make.
I mean that style. I mean, we can also see like not everyone can pull it off, because with scary movies, there was an entire era where a whole lot of studios were just copying them and came out with those, and just none of them landed quite as hard as Scary Movie.
Oh yeah, they're definitely the experts at spoof movies. And the style, like, I'm not arguing with that. I just think that if you're gonna make a movie that's not a spoof movie, maybe try and like hide that style a little more than Don't have it be like upfront.
I mean, I think. I mean, again, like I think this works like as a spoof on like the classic sitcom parent dynamics. It just wasn't as in your face as a spoof. Like like if this was in the style of scary movie, it like all of his friends would be caricatures of like recognizable sitcom dads. Like some like one of his friends would be in like a white polo and blue jeans, and at some point get like mustard on their face so that they're yellow like Homer Simpson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I think this just did just add more subtlety to it. Gave the audience like a bit more to figure out above all the blatant jokes.
That's fair. But I don't know. Still feels like a spoof movie when it's not a spoof movie. And I know that's what you argued. I just see it as a negative versus a positive. In the context of this argument.
I mean, if their biggest fault of this movie was assuming their audience was a bit smarter than they are, then I see that as more of a compliment to them.
Okay, I've got a question for you. Are the Wayans brothers auteurs? Since they have their own distinct style that's noticeable from the second you like in every single film.
Okay, I guess by like that metric, yes. I just personally don't like the whole auteur theory thing. Just because there's so much that goes into filmmaking and so many people involved, like giving all credit to like to directors, I feel is ridiculous, and directors who believe that always sound insufferable. And
super fair.
Yeah, but I mean the Wayans brothers, to their credit, like they work together well. Whenever I see interviews, they acknowledge it's a whole collaboration with different people. Like I saw like some interviews with them talking about this movie, and they were just like, yes, this would not be possible without the VFX team. They deserve so much credit in being able to pull this off. And so like and that also comes with the fact they've been doing it for so long. At that point, they understand the importance of everything that goes in.
Yeah, that makes sense. They also just seem like they seem like stand-up guys.
Yeah.
Like if my daughter was like, "Oh, I'm dating one of the Wayans brothers," I'd be like, "Cool."
Yeah, I mean, now the youngest one is like 50s. Like Damon Wayans has like a middle-aged son who's also been on sitcoms. Like he was on New Girl and Happy Endings, which is just like, it feels weird how old they are.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, like Scary Movie was such a hit when I was a teenager and like a kid. So I picture them kind of always in that age range. Like I feel like they make movies for that age range. So I think of them that way.
Oh yeah, because I remember I forgot what I was watching with Marlon Wayans, and I was just like, when did you turn 40? Like you're not allowed to do that. You gotta be in your late 20s, maybe early 30s forever.
Were you watching the Sextuplets movie or something?
No, I forgot. Maybe it was G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay. I know it was in G.I. Joe. Was that the most recent one?
No, it was the first live action movie they did.
Yeah. They're in like they end up in the Arctic at one point in that movie, right?
Probably.
Yeah. They also shoot guns, right? Like,
yeah.
There's also like a big evil villain who has a base, correct?
Yeah. It's like which is weird because like looking back at the movie, it's like they had such a star-studded cast. It should have been better.
You want to get into three things?
Yep. All right, so these are our concessions. This is where I give 3 things I didn't like about the movie, and Christy gives 3 things she did like.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Great physical comedy. The Marlon Wayans and the Wayans brothers just know how to do it perfectly. I feel like that's like built into their shtick, and they can shoot it as well as like a 1950s screwball comedy could.
Yeah. Yeah, the physical comedy, that's something where it's like a lot of it takes so much planning. So to be able to pull it off as consistently as they do is a real talent.
Yeah.
All right, my first concession. I feel that the whole concept is absurd for live action. Like when I read up that they based off of a Bugs Bunny cartoon, I was like, that makes sense, because I feel like if this whole thing was a cartoon, a lot of the stuff would play a lot better. Like like if it's a cartoon, then you could actually believe, oh, this family truly believes this grown man is a baby.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also that like kind of fucked up look caused a lot of laughs.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, there are also other things like you mentioned, like him being like strong out of nowhere. Sometimes, like I feel like that's something you could pull off better in a cartoon.
Yeah,
where it's like you don't have to worry about real world restraints.
It's surprisingly wholesome, all things considered. Like it's about a baby who is actually a man, but also looking at it another way, it's about a man who never had a father come to experience a father's love and grow as a person. Calvin.
Yeah.
He even says it at the end of the movie. And then it's about a man so ready to be a father that he is willing to do anything to be that father. That's like a father's love and a man seeking it's very wholesome.
Yeah. It's almost like, I want to say like a late stage coming of age.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. The film just doesn't know how to handle its ticking clock. Cause like the big thing is that like they're supposed to have a limited time to get this diamond because they're working for this mob boss who's just like, we need it in 24 hours. The thing is, Calvin never actually learns about that time frame, so there isn't much pressure on him. That's told to his partner, who has very little communication with him throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, he just learned that 24 hours thing and just went home and went to sleep.
Yeah, like I think because that's something where I feel like that could have been solved if they like went to mob boss before the whole baby thing, and they're like, look, this family has it, just like have someone rob them, and they got it, and they're like, well, you're not getting paid unless you hand me this diamond, and they're like, within 36 hours, and then they both know, and then also the plan of turning him into a baby feels a lot more like desperation.
Yeah. Tracy Morgan is amazing. Any role he plays. Like, I love Tracy Morgan, and he killed it in this role. He was like great comic relief. Calvin is a comedic character, but at the same time, in the context of this movie, I think Tracy Morgan plays like really good comic relief to a comedic character.
Yeah, I was actually going to say as my last concession that Percy should have been more involved a lot for that reason, because their dynamic, it was a lot like Pinky in the Brain, where it's just like, within this world, we also believe Calvin is this criminal mastermind, specifically because when we first meet him, he's next to Percy, who clearly follows his orders and does everything. So it's like, I would have liked to see them play off a lot more, because there's the scene where Calvin like puts the diamond in a diaper bag at the playground. And like Percy's trying to figure out which one it's in. It's like stuff like that was funny, and I would have liked to see that a lot more.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna I think I already did forget it. Oh yeah, that's the other thing that bothered me about this movie in terms of like sizing and like they can't when you see the diamond in the display case, it's a big diamond, but like normal diamond. And then when they take it out, it's huge in his hand. And you're like, oh, they're trying to make his hand look smaller than normal. But then no, that's just the size of the diamond in every single person's hand.
Yeah, because also there's a point where Kerry Washington has it in a ring on her finger, and it just looks absurdly big to a point like that. That's another thing that's like I think could have been pulled off better if this was animated. Because like an animated characters, like you could play with that sizing a bit more, and then where it's like where it's just obscenely big to the viewer, but everyone else still just handles it like it's normal. Because like realistically, walking around with that on your ring finger just feels like it's invasive to your life.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine getting anything done with that.
Like your day as a businesswoman's over.
Yeah, could you imagine trying to type with that?
Or like just going. Like if I saw a diamond that big, I'd be like, well, maybe I should just rob her. Like I'm not even I'm not a thief or like a criminal, but like goddamn, that's a huge diamond to be walking around with everywhere.
Oh yeah, could you imagine like going to the gym, putting that in your locker? Like I'd be tempted to just go to the gym, just be like. Hey, I lost the key in my lock. Can you break this open? Which I know you got like the chain colors in there.
All
right. So now it's time for our closing statements. All right. Lil Man may be seen as a blimp on the careers of everyone involved, but that's because everyone is so great at what they do. This film is overlooked as a satire it is, but has a lot to say about relationships and modern fatherhood. Watch with an open mind and you may discover something about yourself.
Little Man isn't a good movie. Nobody walked out of the theaters and said, damn, that was a great movie. They might say it's funny and that it had its moments, but to call this movie good is to ignore every part of it except the cheap laughs. It's a mediocre, turn your brain off comedy, which is fine, but that's all it really is.
Yeah, I feel like if they came up with a lot more stuff for like Calvin to do that really drives home, like, oh, this is a criminal pretending to be a baby, do criminal things as a baby outside of just sexual harassment and misconduct, it could have been better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the part where he's just like teaching kids CeeLo, it's like, oh, more of that could have been in there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this wraps another episode of Film versus Movie. Thank you all for tuning in.